off by saying Shalom Israel. It's the Isupk. Start out at 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commanding General Yohana. I'm Priest and Officer of 1000 Kasar Prakad. This is the Tuesday Brotherhood class for the Isupk Oakland, as well as the Isupk Seattle Pacific Northwest region. Okay, before we get into class, we're going to go ahead and read what the Isupk is about. You can find this on the website.
In the Isupk, we are educating Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians about their true heritage, which is composed of the laws, statutes, and commandments of the Bible. Once our people begin to follow the laws of the Bible, God, or Yahweh in the Hebrew, will look down from heaven and have mercy on us. He will also send Christ to free us from our oppression. Using the Bible, the Isupk will fix all the problems of the Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian communities, turning a lawless and immoral people into a law-abiding, righteous people. The true nationality of the Negroes, Hispanics, Native Indians, and West Indians of North, South, and Central America are the true descendants of the lost 12 tribes of the nation of Israel. And Jesus Christ, or Yahweh Shai Mashiach, is their king.
That's right. Right? That's what the Isupk is about. Fixing the problems in the Black, Latino, and Native American Indian community. All right? And how are we going to do that? We're going to use the Bible. Isupk is the only home of the truth. We say this and we stand on it. It's not just a cool catchphrase that we like to say to sound different. It's a bold statement that we want to stand and live by. Isupk is the only home of the truth because we were the first since 1969 to bring out everything that people today will call Hebrew Israelite or Israelisms, where the 12 tribes chart, the Lashawan Kodash, rank and order, celebrating the feast days and letting Black, Hispanics, and Native American Indians know that they're one people. And since Isupk is the home of the truth, we also have to tell everyone out there that there is only going to be one body.
That's right.
Christ did not come to set up different groups, different camps, different organizations, or different churches. That is the tradition of Christianity. That's what you learn in the Christian church. That's what the Christian doctrine is all about. They say the most segregated day of the week. What's the most segregated day of the week? Do you know, Kamama?
If I may. Sunday.
Sunday. That's the most segregated day of the week, where everyone is separated based on their religion. If you are a Methodist, if you're a Baptist, if you are Episcopalian, Seventh-day Adventist, whatever it is, you go to that congregation. And in that congregation, it's only Black people here. It's called the Black Church.
Right. Black
choirs. And you have only white people over here, Asians over here, Latinos over here, Arabs over, everyone supposedly reading the same Bible, reading the same book, but everybody's separated. Why is that? Because that's what Christianity is about. It's not about unifying anyone. It's not about bringing anyone together, especially the 12 tribes of Israel. So we're the opposite of the Christian church.
Right.
We don't follow in that tradition. We're about unity of Black, Hispanics, and Native American Indians. And if that means our unity is not based on being fake or compromising. See, that's another thing. They're coming out with this thing, what is it called? Like non-denominational.
Right.
We're all, doesn't matter even if you're Muslim, we can all come together, Buddhists, and we can celebrate because they supposedly believe in the same God. All paths lead to the same God. And in one instance, they're correct. They do worship the same God. All paths do lead back to the same God, except their God is Satan.
Right.
The God of the Bible, the most high power in the Bible, is only dealing with one nation of people. That's the children of Israel. And he's always set up one body to represent him. How can we go by our credo Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one, and we're all separated.
Right.
What is the meaning of that statement? That's a very powerful statement. Hear, O Israel, Shema Yasharallah. Listen, Israel, our God is one. If we have one God, we have one power.
Right.
If we have one power, we should all be together, united. There is no separation with the Most High. So why is there separation with the people that are following it? So we're going to go with the first precept. Bring out Philippians chapter 2 and verse 2. Go ahead and get there with you. Philippians chapter 2 and verse 2. Go ahead, please.
Philippians one of the books that make Filipinos think they in the Bible.
That sounds about right. There's something else in the Bible that's like that, where people just, that must be me. I can't think of it right now, but that reminds me of something. It might come to me. All right. It's got to be us. It's Filipinos right there.
Right.
Beloved.
Philippians 2 and 4.
2 and 2. Focus shot.
Okay. The book of Philippians, chapter 2, verse 2. Fulfill ye my joy, that ye be like-minded, having the same love, being of one accord, of one mind.
Right. He's saying, fulfill you my joy. This is the joy of Paul, to see that the people in his church, in his school, be of one mind, be of one accord. That's what we are in ISUPK.
Right.
We speak the same things. We have different camps all over the country, different schools in Oakland, in Los Angeles, in Texas, in New York, in Boston, in Chicago. But guess what? If you go to Chicago, they're going to teach the same things we teach here. They're going to speak the same things we speak here. Why? Because we are in one accord.
Right.
Because we are of one mind. That's what Christ was all about. That's what his teachings were all about. Raising up Israel to be one again. No division. All the way back to when the northern kingdom separated from the southern kingdom. That has been one of the main goals that the Most High had for the children of Israel, is to bring those two sticks together and bring them back as one. And that's what we're seeing and experiencing here in ISUPK. Where you go into certain areas all over the country, blacks and Latinos do not get along. Whether it's in the penitentiary or on the streets. In high school, I remember at my high school, we had different riots and things where it was the blacks going against the Mexicans or the blacks going against the Latinos. How can you look at the ISUPK and not see that it's a beautiful thing to see blacks and Latinos dwelling together in unity? Native American Indian brothers coming together as one body. And the only way we're able to do that is because we're on one accord. We're using this Bible to be on one accord. This Bible doesn't contradict itself. The Bible had several different writers, but they spoke the exact same things.
Right.
That's how this is one book. All right, so read that again from the top.
The book of Philippians, chapter 2, verse 2. Fulfill ye my joy.
Right.
That ye be like-minded.
That you be what?
Like-minded.
That you be like-minded, having the same doctrine. This whole idea that you can have your own camp and break off from this group and start your own group, and you believe the Sabbath is this day, someone else is believing the Sabbath starts on the new moon, you are not like-minded. That's confusion.
Right.
That's division. ISUPK isn't about dividing Israel. We're about being one body like Christ wanted us to be. All right, so let's drop that one And let's go to 1 John chapter 2 and verse 19. First John chapter 2 and verse 19.
Book of 1 John chapter 2, verse 19. They went out from us, but they were not of us.
They went what?
Out from us, but they were not of us.
So what is this talking about right here? That there were a group of people that were with the apostles. They were with the disciples of Christ. They were with John, they were with Paul, they were with Peter, and they went out from us. They left us. Keep reading.
For if they had been of us, they would no doubt have continued with us.
Right. This is a cut for all the camps the so-called camps that broke off and split off from the Isupk.
Right.
Everyone knows that the truth started out in 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York. You see it on my headband right now. You see it on my shirt, 1 West.
That's right.
Why do we hold on to the name of 1 West? 1 West is not just a building. 1 West is a spirit.
That's right.
1 West embodies the spirit that woke up brothers to know who they were, know who they are, remembering their heritage and their culture, returning back to being a righteous people. So if you're saying you came into the truth when you walked into the doors of 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, and then you left out of there and you're still in the truth, this scripture is telling you that's not so.
Right.
Because if you were with us, you would have never left from us. How do you call someone your brother in Christ? Someone that you're warring with, and then you leave from them? I mean, what is this supposed to be? We're supposed to be the army of the Lord, correct? This is supposed to be the army of the Lord. How do you join the Marines, go to war, and then after that you say, I think I'm gonna start my own mercenary group. I think I'm just gonna build up a militia over here. You know, we still all Americans, but we don't want to fight with the Marines anymore because of section code 2 dot whatever. That's my brothers over there, but this little code that they have, we don't agree with that breakdown. We don't like how that one was. Man, you're supposed to stick with your brothers.
Right.
You worried about a breakdown of 2 Peter? You're going to abandon your nation? You can't stick and battle it out? If you so stuck on this one breakdown, battle it out. But you don't leave your goddamn brothers, man.
Right.
And read it again from the top.
One time. Book of 1 John, chapter 2, verse 19. They went out from us, but they were not of us.
That's exposing the true character behind you. You can see what someone is really worth. What does the Bible say? That gold is tried in the furnace and acceptable men in adversity.
Right.
Anyone can say anything that they'll be with you and they're loyal this and they're loyal that. But when push comes to shove, you'll really find out. And this is what is being spoken of right here. They're finding out that these men were never really with them from the beginning. If you're able to leave your brothers behind, then you were never really brothers in the first place.
Right.
Let's keep going.
For if they had been of us, they would no doubt have continued with us.
Right.
But they went out.
That's a big but right there. But I ain't talking about Nicki Minaj, man. That's a big but right there.
Right.
But they went from without us, man. They left us. So now we know. Let's keep going.
That they might be made manifest that they were not all of us.
Right. So now we get to see the true colors. We get to see who is who. All right, what's the precept on that? Let me see. Can you bring me Salakia? What's the precept where it says you shall know them by their fruits? Was that Matthew in the 10th chapter? Let's see, Matthew 10.
Matthew 12.
Matthew 12 and 33. Let's go ahead and pull that out.
No. Matthew 7:16.
7:16. Right. Let's start at 15.
Book of Matthew, chapter 7, verse 15. Beware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves.
Right. Beware. Christ, this is written in red. Christ is warning his followers. Beware of false prophets. People that are coming saying they're representing the Bible, they're representing Israel, they're here to lead you. They come like sheep in wool, wolves in sheep clothing, basically.
Right.
And that's another bar. We got to think. There's so many sayings you'll hear in the Bible that people use throughout the culture here in America, throughout the world.
Right.
That's a wolf in sheep's clothing. Christ said that. That's not some quote that just came out of nowhere. So like let's see right here. Say wait it now. But that's not some quote that some devil came up with. That's a quote that Christ said. And it's such a heavy quote, people still use it to this day, and they don't even give credit to Yahweh Shai for saying it. They're plagiarizing his quote right here. But what is he saying? He's saying that these false prophets, they're going to come. We can go into both sides. You got the Christian church is clearly full of false prophets. They come in sheep's clothing, but they're really wolves. They're really plotting on getting money from elderly women.
Right.
That's their hustle. They're literally books that describe different types of pimps. In the pimp game, there are certain pimps. Some pimps, they're finesse, and this is how they get their women. They come through, they're nice, they tell them that they love them, and then they flip it and use them to make money. Then there's other pimps that are guerrilla pimps, and they just strong arm women and take them and force them to do what they want, and beat them up if they try to leave. And in that same book, there's a whole chapter and verse on preacher pimps, that this is the retirement plan for a lot of pimps. After they're getting old and they can't have any young women come, the next level of the game is to go and start up a church and apply that same game to older women. That's what the Christian church is filled with, nothing but women. And then they tell them these stories, and they use their voice and the choir and all this. They drive up in the Cadillac, the same Cadillac they had, and they try to get these women to give them money. And it's working. And they figure out, come to find out, they're making more money in that game than the one on the streets. So these are wolves in sheep's clothing, and they're preying on the weak. That's another reason why Israel's always likened to sheep, because sheep don't have ways to protect themselves. If something wants to attack a sheep, it's going to yell out and scream. That's pretty much it. It's a wrap. If something gets inside of its protection, if it doesn't have a good shepherd, someone that's guarding and protecting it, then it's going to be taken over. And so that's how our people are. Our leaders who are supposed to be protecting the flock are scattering them and taking advantage of them and serving them straight to the wolves.
Right.
And so Christ is saying, beware of these false prophets. Now we can go back to the Israelite side. These so-called camps that are saying they're representing the truth. They're in the truth. Everyone has a piece of the truth. No one has all of the truth. Read it again from the top.
The book of Matthew, chapter 7, verse 15. Beware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves.
All right, verse 16.
You shall know them by their fruits.
You shall know them by what?
Their fruits.
By their fruits. The things that they're producing. The Christian church, the black Christian church, received, was it $400 billion since the 80s? And how is the black community? Abortions, drugs, prison, homosexuality, and the list goes on.
Right.
So clearly the fruits of the Christian church has produced destruction in our community.
Right.
You go to cell block 4 right now. Go to any penitentiary here in the Bay Area. We have what? Folsom, you got San Quentin, Lompoc. Go in there and ask them how many of them grew up in the Christian church. How many of their families raised them as Christians? 80, 90%.
Right.
Of these brothers that are locked up in prison come out of the Christian church. So that's the fruits of the Christian church. And let's get it closer to these fake Israelites, as we call them. We call them fake Israelites not because they're not the children of Israel. They are Israelites by blood. But we're talking about being an Israelite indeed.
Right.
The same way Christ talked about Nathanael when he saw him, he said, this is an Israelite indeed. Everyone in this Bible knew they were Israel. That didn't make them in the truth. Who was Christ talking about when he said, bring them before me so I can slay them? The ones that don't want to follow me or be underneath me.
Right.
He's talking about Israelites that didn't want to be in one body, that didn't want to follow after Christ. And that's the same thing we're seeing. And Salag, if I may, sir, if I can name, drop, or talk about, or should I just stay a little bit vague with it? Man, all right. We got GOCC. Where did they come from? They came from a group that split off of another split off of the House of David. That was the first one to break off. Who came out of the House of David? IUIC came out of a group that split off from a split off of them. And what does IUIC produce? They're in Africa.
Right.
One West did not teach about saving Africans and flying to Ghana and getting a jet and going there and swatting flies off of Nigerians' faces to get a couple dollars in your pocket. What is IUIC? They said they don't give a damn about Trayvon Martin.
Right.
That's what we sacrifice our life for brothers like Trayvon Martin in the Isupk. That's what we give up our Saturdays for. That's what we give up spending time with our family for. It's for brothers like Trayvon Martin. And they talking about they don't give a damn about Trayvon Martin. They say if you have a warrant, you going to jail. Christ had a warrant. Right. We all know it. Captain Katazab made a whole song blazing on them cats. They would have turned Christ in for 30 shekels. Right. The same way they would turn your brother in, your cousin in, your uncle in for some money over to the white man, to our oppressor. What else? We can go down the list, man. Who else came out of, what fruit was produced out of everyone that split off? The other group, we got the candy cane, the comforter. He stole millions of dollars from his people. Double ties. All type of, he said he was the comforter. That alone should let you know that those brothers were not in the truth. Right. And now, like I said, Lord be with the brother. He's passed on. But that brother died at a young age, man. Corona came and took him out. You will know them by their fruits. We don't even have to bring up GMS. Goddamn. Right. Everyone that left the ISUPK, they changed the doctrine. They changed what we were about. Why? So GMS can go out and sleep with white women. Right. GMS can tell you that it's okay to sleep with a 12-year-old little girl. Right. That it's okay to rape. We're going to rape women in the kingdom. You shall know them by their fruits. Is there anything like it? What I mean, GLCC accepts the heathens.
Right.
And the list goes on. Everyone else has deviated. ISUPK, you'll know by their fruits. What are the fruits of ISUPK? Captain Tazariak.
That's right.
Captain Mawakar.
That's right.
Captain Gadar.
That's right.
General Mahaiman.
That's right.
General Ayakala.
Right.
Hazayan. General Hazayan.
Right.
These are the fruits of the ISUPK. Fixing black families. Feeding black families.
Right.
Getting brothers out of jail, not sending them into jail.
That's right.
Getting people off of drugs. Not saying it's okay to use drugs. Fake Israelites out there smoking more weed than Snoop Dogg. All right? So Christ is warning you. We don't have to tell you we're the home of the truth. We're going to show you. And that's how you know. That's how the Bible always identified who was who. You go into the Bible, how can I say this? You want to know how do you know that black people and Hispanic people are the true Israelites? You go into this book and you see how they were and the characteristics they had, and then you see who we are today, and it lines up.
Right.
How do you know that America is Babylon today? You go into the book, you look at the characteristics, and you see who they are. Go ahead, please.
If you could pull Romans chapter 11, verse 13 and 14. If you could break down.
No, go ahead, please, sir.
So what the brother bringing out is so heavy because this ain't about boasting. Boasting is when you don't have a claim for what you're saying. You know what I'm saying? The Israelites, who was universal practical knowledge, we did not come out of somebody.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We are the original body. One West, 125th Street has not changed. There is no old One West. There is no new One West. It's been the same One West since 1969.
Damn right.
It's like it's 11.
Romans 11, verse 13 and 14.
Kind of on one con. The book of Romans, chapter 11, verse 13. For I speak to you, Gentiles.
So we speak to blacks, Latins, and Native American Indians that are not in the truth. We speak to those that believe that on the Sabbath day, they can't do a damn thing.
Right.
They can be on Facebook, but they can't cook no food. They can charge their phone, but they can't go outside and run in the sprinklers.
Right.
And said, we speak to those Israelites that don't even understand that they are not serving God the way they believe. Read it from the top again.
Kind of on one con. The book of Romans, chapter 11, verse 13. For I speak to you, Gentiles.
We also speak to those Israelites that are at the Christian church, man, thinking that they're serving God every Sunday. Thinking that, what do Christians like to say? What do Christians say? They say, agree to disagree.
Right.
To them Christians that agree to disagree and all those type of things, to those Christians that are atheists, to those blacks, Latins, and Native Americans that have been so destroyed by the Christian church that they have given up on God.
Right.
We speak to you because we are not a religion. We're not reading a religious book. We're reading out of our scriptures,
right,
out of our history book. We speak unto you, and for that reason we magnify our office. Keep going.
Inasmuch as I am the apostle of the Gentiles.
Meaning we're here for you. We're not just here for those people in the UPK, and we're not just here for those who think they're in the truth.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? On Facebook, they be like, when did you come to the truth? I was in the truth in 2012. But I'm like, I don't even know who the hell you are.
Right.
You're not in the truth because there's only one truth. There are not multiple truths like the brother was saying. There's only one. Shemaya, Sha'ala, Yahweh, Allah, Yahweh, Akkad.
Right.
There's only one power, only one Yahweh, so there's only one truth. All right, keep going.
I magnify mine office.
We magnify our office, saying that we are the home of the truth. We build men. If you're not in the ISUPK, you are not in the truth. and we're not affiliated with any other Israelite church or any other entity. We magnify our office the way the scripture says for us to do.
Right.
Understand? Go ahead.
If by any means I may provoke to emulation them which are my flesh.
If by any means, y'all know how y'all love Malcolm X was saying, by any, they got that quote with him with the AK or the M16, whatever it was,
Right.
saying by any means necessary.
Right.
Well, in the ISUPK, if by any means I can provoke my brother to emulation, but that is my brother of the flesh, meaning we're of the same bloodline.
Right.
And say, I don't want to provoke a white man or a white woman to come here, an African man, an African woman. Only person, or an Asian, or Asian man or woman. Only people I want to provoke is Latins, natives, and niggas to come into the truth, the proper way, and be like me. I learned that from General Muhammad. You understand? Be like me. And who is General Muhammad being like? Commanding General Yohanan. And who is Commanding General Yohanan in the place of Jesus Christ, man?
Right.
And we magnify our office to that point. You understand? We don't call Commander General Yohanan a comforter. We don't give him an unnecessary title. It's liaison or nothing else.
Right.
Commander General Yohanan is liaison to Christ. You know?
And might save some of them.
All of them.
Some of them.
A few of them.
Some of them.
Man, whoever get it. If you don't get it, we'll shake the dust off the same way Christ was like. Christ spoke in parables because either you get it and get with it, or you don't get it and you get put to death.
Right.
That's how it goes. Go ahead, Soldier.
Damn right, man. Clap it up for that, man. You either get with it or you don't get it. That's why we say it's one west till they bury us. That's it. It's always been like that. Paul was a writer for his and what he believed in. He went to the ends of the earth. All these men didn't give up their lives and were willing to die. Stephen getting stoned, getting hit with rocks in his head for something they didn't believe in to the death. And it was no division in that. It was no confusion in that. Let's bring out the next precept. 1 Corinthians chapter 12 and verse 25. Baba Kashan. That's exactly what Officer Karak was just bringing out right now. Is that, like he said, well, we're not saying this because it's just something to be said. It's something that we live by. Go ahead.
Book of 1 Corinthians, chapter 12, verse 25. That there should be no schism in the body, but that the members should have the same care for one another.
Right. So
one for another.
So, Lucky, is that it for? Okay. Read it one more time.
Book of 1 Corinthians, chapter 12, verse 25. That there should be no schism in the body.
Right. What is he saying? That there should be no schism in the body. What is a schism? Go ahead and read this definition right here. The beginning part. You don't have to read all of it. Just the first.
Schism. Pronounced schism. Less commonly is a division between people, usually belonging to an organization, movement, or religious domination.
Right, denomination. Right. So he's already warning about this idea or this thing that could happen coming up. There should be no division in the body. There should be no separation of brothers. We should have brotherhood from now until Christ returns. There is no place for a schism, a separation. And if you go click back one time. All right. There was something that was called the Great Schism or the East-West Schism. How y'all doing? All right. Shalom. There was called the East-West Schism in the Christian church or Christianity. Can you go ahead and read what happened?
The Great Schism or Schism of 1054 is the break of communion since the 11th century between the Catholic Church and Eastern Orthodox churches. The schism was the culmination of theological and political differences which had developed during the preceding centuries between Eastern and Western Christianity.
Right. So you want to talk about Tupac and Biggie, East Coast versus West Coast. There was a split with the Catholic Church from the East to the West. This side is going to have their Pope and the other side is going to have their Pope. They already started that division. Then it broke on down to the Protestant Revolution or whatever they call that with Martin Luther.
Right.
We're not talking about Michael Luther King. We're talking about Martin Luther, the original. There's an Edomite devil that split from the Catholic Church. So not only the Catholic Church split from their first, which was the quote unquote Orthodox, then there was another split with the Protestants. Then what did the Protestants do? Then you became Baptist. Then there came Jehovah's Witness. Then there became Methodist, and so forth and so forth and so on. Once one split happens, it keeps on splitting and breaking off. And that's what we're seeing in the so-called Israelite community today, where these camps keep breaking off and splitting off and breaking off and splitting off. Why is that? Because you take on the spirit of the men above you that you follow.
Right.
Just like Karak said, when you see General Muhammad, you're looking at General Yohanan.
That's right.
When you're looking at General Yohanan, you're looking at the spirit of the 7 heads that started with the Isupk.
Right.
You're looking at Abba Bivens. When you see Captain Gadolhar, you're seeing Captain Kahan.
Right.
We all represent the same things. And the spirit that we have is a spirit of commanding General Yohanan, which is one of loyalty, which is one of brotherhood,
Right.
which is one of dedication. And that's why we're dedicated, because our leader was loyal. Our leader was dedicated. So when you follow a man that was not loyal and that was not dedicated and that was willing to leave, why do you not expect the men underneath him to be not dedicated, to be not loyal, and to leave him and to break off and start something else? So it just keeps on splitting and splitting because you're following a bunch of disorganized, unloyal brothers and expecting to build up this body of Christ. And that's all you're going to keep getting, man. So once again from the top.
Book of 1 Corinthians. Book of 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 25. That there should be no schism in the body, but that the members should have the same care one for another.
They should have the same care one for another. Once again, we're using metaphors the same way with the wolves and sheep clothing. We got metaphors again, us representing one body. There shouldn't be any schisms in your body. That means something is going wrong. I mean, even when, what is that thing, the little games little kids be trying to play where they pat their head and rub their stomach at the same time? Is you have to train your body to do that, to go in the opposite direction, because it wants to do the same thing, man. Your body wants to be on one accord. It doesn't even want to go in a different direction. So this metaphor is the same thing. It should be a split. How can you be all following the same person, believing in different things?
Right.
There's either something wrong with what this one is saying, or there's something wrong with what this one is saying. All right, so let's go ahead. Let's go back to Ephesians 4:4, another milk scripture. Brothers new into the school, you always want to have this one in the cuts. You want to have this one in your precept books. You really want to remember this one. This is a bedrock UPK scripture right here. Ephesians chapter 4 and verse 4. So, like we said, how do you identify who the Israelites are? You go in this Bible and you see what their characteristics are. We're seeing what Paul taught. We're seeing what Christ taught. We can go to the Old Testament and see what Moses taught. And we'll see who's doing the same thing today. Go ahead, read.
The book of Ephesians chapter 4, verse 4. There is one body.
There is what?
One body.
Read.
And one spirit.
Go ahead.
Even as ye are called in one hope of your calling.
Right. So once again, there is one body. Everyone has their different talents and different capabilities. Some are the fingers, some are the eyes, some are the nose, some are the ears, but they all are important to this body of Christ. In order to get the work done of Christ's mission, he needs people to do it. It's not like a fantasy book where you just go in and you pray and then your rent gets paid.
Right.
General Yohana said, what was I think General Muhammad was saying what General Yohana taught him? He said, we are the answers to your prayers.
Right.
We're not like the Christian church where you come in here every week and you paying tithes, and then when you're facing eviction, the pastor tells you to go home and pray. Right. And the Lord is going to answer your prayers. No, man, he sent men to do the work to answer your prayers, to actually do the things that need to be done. So in order for Christ to get his mission accomplished, he needs to have a body. He needs to have representatives on earth. And so he's saying there is one body though. There aren't two camps or two groups or two schools or four churches that can do the same mission with a different methodology. There's only one body and one spirit. Let's keep going.
Come, verse 5. One Lord, one faith, one baptism.
Right, one Lord. Our Lord is Yahweh Shai Mashiach. Our Father is the Most High Power Yahweh in the Hebrew. There is one Lord over us. There is one King that is ruling over this nation. What's the next one? What does it say?
Verse 6. One God.
No. After one Lord.
One faith.
Right.
One baptism.
One faith and one baptism. That's one doctrine, one faith. We have one doctrine in the UPK. Like we already brought out, it doesn't matter where you go. You can go to Alaska. If you find a UPK brother, you're going to hear the same thing. You know, not to go too into detail, but I reached out to a brother on Facebook. He was going through some things and he said, you know, somebody give me a call. And I'm like, man, this brother's going through it. You know what I mean? He's a fake Israelite. He's into all these different other things. But, you know, I reached out to him and said, here's my number. Call me. The brother called me up. And I was giving him some counsel, giving him some advice and telling him, you know, this is what you need to do. This is where you're going wrong. Stop doing that and do this right here. I was like, where are you at? He said, oh, I'm over here in Harlem. I said, good night. I would love to be in your position to be close to headquarters. You're around the corner from Captain Tazariak. He said, oh, yeah, I know Captain Tazariak. I talked to him. He said the same thing. I said, you goddamn right, man. What did you expect? To hear something different?
Right.
You think that my counsel is going to be different from what Captain Tazariak is teaching or telling you?
Right.
No, we speak the same thing. We have the same spirit. We learn the same lessons and we give the same counsel.
Right.
You may not like what you hear from General Muhammad. You can't run over to another captain, officer, or general and hear something different. You're going to get that same counsel, man, that same advice. And when it's talking about one baptism, Christ said he came to baptize with fire. John baptized with water. If you still baptizing with water, that's not Christ's baptism. There's only one baptism.
Right.
You're following John. You're not following Christ. So once again, we're seeing that there is unity in the division. That's what this whole Bible is about. It's about separation and unity.
That's right.
Being holy means separate. So the Lord said, in order for there to be one nation above all nations, guess what? He got to separate them from the other nations. But then within that, that's unifying this nation. And guess what he said? Okay, now we got the children of Israel, but the priests are going to come from the tribe of Levi.
Right.
So we got unity, and then we got separation, and then we got unity, and then we got separation again. So there is so much unity that can be found in separation. And that's the same way that you can find out with the black community, that we think if we separate from America, then we're dividing. We're dividing from them, but we're uniting amongst us.
Right.
And that's the importance, man. That's what this Bible is trying to show you. So the UPK, we're not going to compromise what we believe in. We're not going to compromise our morals to unite with someone that says it's okay to rape, just for a picture's sake, to have a unity camp. Like I said, our camp is not about having unity camps. Our camp is about having real unity.
Right.
There's real unity within our camp that we don't have to even declare it. Why do you have to declare unity camp? Because you Negroes are divided, man.
Right.
That is just like hypocrisy in itself. But like I said, we admonish our brothers because we love our brothers. And guess what? A lot of them cats end up calling the UPK for counsel. And we still counsel them because they're Israel. So am I, what does the Bible say in Galatians? Was it 4:16? Am I therefore become your enemy because I tell you the truth? Because I tell you that Christ didn't come to set up different organizations. Now I'm your enemy. Now the UPK is the bad guys. Because General Yohana gave out the decree that all camps are ordered to come together. So let's keep going with some precepts. Do you have a question, sis?
Not yet.
Okay, most high Christ. Let's see. Let's go to John chapter 11, and we'll start at verse 49. This one right here. Let me see. John chapter 11 and verse 49.
I do have a question.
All right.
You sit with your back to the door?
Usually we don't, but since we know how your
No, you could have sat in this.
that way, yeah, we started to do that, but then we was like, we didn't want to knock over anything. Yeah. She's on Shamar. She know what time it is. Yeah. Shamar is what we call guard in Hebrew. You know, so
Shamar?
yeah, brothers that are on guard. So that's definitely how we would normally set things up. Let's see. John chapter 11, verse 49.
The book of John, chapter 11, verse 49. And one of them, named Caiaphas, being the high priest that same year, said unto them, Ye know nothing at all.
Right. So we get in the high priest Caiaphas. He is trying to be in the middle between the Romans and the Israelites. And he's trying to make this decision the same way where you'll hear like a Creflo Dollar. Who do they always send out? Al Sharpton to quell down the riots and sit in the middle between the establishment and the people. Kamala Harris, exactly. Now today we have Kamala Harris, which is put in place to say everything is okay now. We hear all this stuff about Black Lives Matter. Watching these few coming months, you're going to hear less and less and less. Brothers are still going to be getting killed by the police, but I guarantee you it's going to get a whole lot less coverage. Somebody on CNN was interviewing a black sister, and they asked her, or they made the comment that said, "Oh, Joe Biden's in office, things can get back to normal." And the sister had to check her. She said, "What do you mean normal?" Because when Obama was in office, we were out here protesting for Trayvon Martin. When Obama was in office, we were out here protesting for Eric Garner. When Obama was in office, they called Michelle Obama a monkey and a gorilla. So your normal is oppression for me.
Right.
And so that's what they want us to believe, is that she's in the middle now and everything is okay because we have a figurehead. We have someone that can represent us while we still stay in the same conditions. That's the importance of like celebrities and sports players too, because there was something a brother said not too long ago, that there's going to be a push to show black celebrities and black people with wealth, and that you're seeing this small group of people that have a lot of money. So you think maybe there's something wrong with me if I'm poor, or maybe there's something wrong with my family if we're poor, because everyone looks like they're doing well. But in reality, that's just a small percentage. That's a figurehead. All right, you had a question?
Why is it, you think, that we get so excited, like everybody is so excited and in tears and all of this? Particularly, I guess mostly, well, everybody, with Kamala Harris being the first Black woman as a vice president, as we were when Obama was the first. I mean, she's vice president.
Right.
Can I say something real quick?
All right, go ahead, please.
Kamala Harris, didn't she run for city government in San Francisco?
Yeah, she got that position.
Yes, so myself and Captain Capash from the Kentucky 8, we were in San Francisco that day when she was standing on the steps speaking. We listened to her speak and we spoke after what she said. What's crazy about that whole mindset is the spirit of the election season. It's the same as having the spirit of Christ. It's a zeal, a fervor, or being into a football team like the Oakland Raiders. It's a zeal that comes on you because you know it's that season. So every election season, we think, all right, there's going to be a candidate for us. So when Barack Obama was running, a black face. When Hillary Clinton was running, a woman. And now Joe Biden won, and it is actually a sister, pending her father being actually Jamaican, is a sister in office right now. But what people forget is that Kamala Harris, if I'm not mistaken, she was the DA during the time of Oscar Grant. You know what I'm saying? While he was being murdered, she let him unnecessarily not get the time that he deserved for that murder. Like, that devil should be in prison right now. He shouldn't be free. And the same way a lot of Caucasian women said we're all, I lost the name right now, not John Wesley, the devil that killed Michael Brown. I think his name is Jordan Davis. I can't remember his name on top of my head. But we don't understand that while she is a black face, she also says she's going to be a prosecutor in chief. You know what I'm saying? So she's the VP, but she's that same woman that didn't give Oscar Grant the justice that he deserved. So, I mean, think about, what was his brother name? Kawan Carter, or Kawan Williams, a 15-year-old boy that just found mutilated the same way Emmett Till was murdered. So, even though she's there at Lex, and even though Donald Trump is trying to get the recount, this is not going to happen. Donald Trump lost. Everybody knows that he's not president anymore. What's happening right now is destructive because we're looking at it like, all right, Donald Trump, he's a sore loser. And he rolled through that million-man march and smiled and grinned and go play golf. But we're given the Jedi mind trick. Everything is a smoke screen. So you focus on this, but really if Kamala Harris would like to sign anything that means black people get put to death.
So,
Absolutely.
why do you think that we as black people, we're always looking outside ourselves for someone to save us, for someone to make a difference? It's like everybody is excited. I think it's cool. We should be black.
Right.
But she's still not in charge.
Right.
But I can just understand what is it, or what will it take for us as black people, in my opinion, or to understand, it's not about looking outside of yourself, but inside of yourself, and what it is you can do and create and bringing more or connecting yourself with more sisters and brothers that think the same as you. It's like we're all sitting here waiting for a savior. Which is why we're so excited about, I guess, July. And there's only so much he can do because he is really not in charge.
If I may say one more thing.
Please.
Joe Biden is the reason the three-strike law got passed, which Bill Clinton backed, which Hillary Clinton wrapped up in the fact that black people are super predators. General Muhammad said this recently, and he said that black people can believe Christ is black, but they could never believe that a president could ever be black. How you know that? Tupac wrote about it in his song. He said, we ain't ready for a black president. You know, I know it seems 10% they're not ready to see a black president. So it has been in our community to not believe that black people could ever be figureheads that matter. You know, because of Martin Luther King destroying our community.
I just
Okay. No sweat. Go ahead. That's
the figurehead.
that's the what it was.
Is done. And it's not about what this person and that person is doing, what they have to do to save you. We have to come together to save ourselves. And that's mine.
Right.
And until that happens, nothing will happen.
One last thing, I promise.
Come.
To properly come together, we have to think one thing. And that's the only reason we never have to come together. Go ahead, sir.
Right. So there's a few things. I'm gonna try to remember the points that I wanted to say. One was the word figurehead. That's what comes to mind. That a figurehead, by definition, is someone that represents power, but they don't have actual power, just like you said. So that is a tradition in American society and American culture. It even comes from Europe, you know, with the kings and the queens. Right now, they say that the Queen of England is just a figurehead, and they have the parliament and they represent the government. But in reality, she really is, I believe, you know, in power. But this concept is a very Christian concept where if you're waiting for someone to come and save you, you don't feel like you need to do anything yourself. And that's the difference when we teach the Bible. We do believe that Christ will return and he will ultimately free us from our oppression, but the kingdom will not come through observation. We have to work. We have to get up and be active and build it. The Bible also says the kingdom of heaven is within you. So you have to make changes. You have to build this kingdom. And it's not some fantasy place that you go to when you die. It's a literal place here on earth. And so Christianity has helped create this spirit in a community of people that have no hope. That's another issue. Why are we always looking for someone to represent us? Is because we're hopeless in our communities. And so people are running around feeling like that no matter what you do or what you try, it never changes. When they see, you know, Malcolm X rise up and then he gets killed. And then you see Martin Luther King, he gets killed. You see the Black Panthers, they get killed and sent to jail. They become hopeless, and they're always looking for this one person to come. And maybe since we tried to go against the system, it didn't work. Now maybe if we put someone inside the system, they can believe that's gonna change their situation. But in reality, she's just a figurehead. She doesn't have any actual power. And even if she did have power, what are her intentions? Just because someone looks like you or is the same sex, now we're hearing this new thing. It's like, we need a woman to do this, as if being a woman just naturally makes you righteous, or being Black makes you righteous. Or even, I watched this movie the other day on this weekend, last point, sorry, the beginning of the movie, you know, it's a bunch of white kids and it's like a horror movie, and they're like, well, never underestimate a straight white man and his propensity to kill. I'm like, as if homosexual white men weren't murderers,
Right.
as if they weren't buck breaking black men and killing us, and so now they're just right, exactly, raping black women, all of these things. The Greek and the Roman army were full of homosexuals.
Absolutely.
And so now all of a sudden in 2020, being a homosexual makes you righteous, or being a woman makes you a righteous person. But we don't go off of those things. We go off of what are your morals, what are your standards, what are your character, what do you believe in. That's what makes you a good person. So
Listen, I'm gonna get all it real quick. Daniel Cameron is the DA over where Breonna Taylor, her murder can happen. So just because a brother got a black face, his woman is white. Who you sleep with says everything
Did you
about
hear
it.
that, Tina? Oh, you didn't hear what you just said?
It's impossible to sleep with someone outside of your race and care about your race. It's not possible.
Right.
A white woman that sleeps with a black man has to fight her family. And a black man that sleeps with a white woman, he has to say she's different than all the other white people. Yeah, you should never, like, momentarily. George Floyd, everyone of every race watched him get murdered for 7 minutes and 43 seconds?
8 minutes and 44 something.
8
44
minutes. I
seconds.
was like,
Yeah,
you
a
understand?
little
They
bit longer.
should have the
Huh?
whole comment section.
Right.
But as a black man watching that, you wanted to come through the screen and stop this from happening.
Can I just say something? You know, my very good friend is Elaine Brown, who was with the
All right.
Black Panther.
Right. Right.
And her thing is, and I'm with her. How could all of those people be out there? They had 8 minutes and just taking out their
The phone. Right.
phones, taking pictures. And we know that there was some black women there.
Mhm.
We know there was some black men there. Why? How can you just stand back and watch your brother being beat down like a dog? Like she said, all you had to do, I mean, you could have just thrown a rock just simple.
Right.
But I think a lot of us, we move in fear,
Oh, definitely. Right.
you know, so.
I'll give you one. More. This might not be the absolute finite video, but you gotta remember Eric Garner's murder. Eric Garner's murder was just as long. He was standing up. They were surrounding him over cigarettes. They finally brought this man to the ground. He said he can't breathe, and people are watching. It's not that we don't have the spirit to fight for each other. It's that we're so institutionalized that we say, because he's white, I cannot fight for my brother. We have to get that mindset out of our head, but that don't happen if you don't have a warrior spirit. I'm just gonna say one last thing. I think about Sandra Bland every day. And I said, if Sandra Bland had a man she could have vented to, and he'd be a man like us in the UPK, he would have given her all what she needed to do. Look, you fight a hell of a cause. You're gonna get pulled over. People know who you are. Look, if they pull you over, just do them like this. Call me. I'll be on the phone. I'll get you. You know what I'm saying? But because Sandra Bland didn't have a man at that time to vent to, she gave that police officer attitude.
So, what is it saying? So many
So many.
Yeah,
Right.
so
Right.
that was killed in her apartment.
No.
Was her boy? Is that saying?
No, she was the one that was taken to the jail, and then she she quote unquote hung herself a couple of days later. Right.
But the one where they came into they shot into the
That's
apartment,
Brandon said.
and the
No.
brother shot
Right.
Yeah, Brandon said.
back. And I mean, he was
He had every right to shoot her.
absolutely.
But Daniel Cameron
is the DA, and he's fighting for the police, and he's darker than me. So the face ain't what's gonna fix it. It's the mindset, and the only mindset that fixes blacks, Latins, and Native Americans is the UK mindset.
Right. That's
You know, what I would just
That's
love to see, and it's gonna happen, is that every Tuesday when you all are studying, that this place is full
right.
of
Right.
brothers. It's gonna happen. I just want to see, because that is what I think we need. You know, to just to come together, to wake folks up. They just need to wake up and get out of this fear. It's just,
So that's why the story of Christ and everything that's taught based on his life can, how can I say it? The fear of death is the center of everyone's problems subconsciously. That's what certain doctors and people will say, psychologists will say, is that your fear of death is what's controlling the majority of your behavior. What do I mean? Like if your whole goal, like people get depressed for not having money or not having this. If your whole goal in life was to have a 10-bedroom mansion, if you could live forever, you could save up $1 a day, $10 a day. Eventually, in 1,000 years, you would be able to get that 10-bedroom mansion. You know, if your fear is that your mother's going to have cancer and pass away, if she's going to live forever, then it takes away that fear. All right. So when people are so scared of death, they can be controlled and manipulated. That's how they controlled us during slavery, is by saying we will take your life away. And so once Christ has showed he conquered that, or that you can be reborn again, the people that were following him were willing to do anything. They weren't scared of death anymore.
It's a lot.
Go ahead.
I got a heavy verse that's on top of what we were saying to make the point. You read John chapter 18, verse 36. It says, Jesus answered, or Yahweh shall answer, my kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, then would my servants fight, that I should not be delivered to the Jews. But now is my kingdom not from hence.
Right.
The Lord in the UPK, he's creating men that will fight for him.
Right.
And Christ cares about the least of us. We're not gonna sit there and film some brother or sister getting murdered. We're going to stand in between that police officer and put our own life on the line. Because I'd rather not live so that brother can live or that sister can live, and that brother or sister can live because I stood in their place, the way Christ stands in our place.
That's right.
And that's what we don't get in Christianity. Christianity makes you care about your life, whereas being the truth says forsake your life for your brother.
Right.
That's right.
That's what Christ did.
That's right. I've done it.
Right.
That's right.
Right.
And that's what we got to do. We got to come over that fear, because that's exactly like I said. That's how they controlled us for years and years and years during slavery. Bring the strongest black man and tear him apart in the most gruesome way, tar and feather him and rip him apart with horses in front of the women and children, to show you that anyone that stands up is going to be torn down. And so we are like frozen. We're just so in fear of this oppressor that you rather record and watch this person lose their last breath. And you love your life like we've been taught to love a life of hell. In any way, like what are you holding on to? I remember General Muhammad breaking that down. It's like, what do you love your life so much for that you're willing to experience this amount of trauma? Like to see your wife get raped by a slave master, it's like my life is not worth that much to me. I'd rather die than to see that happen to my woman or to my family, to my children. And we just, and that's why we're so selfish. How did you remember how he broke that down? He was just like, go ahead.
You're saying
Right.
is as old as slavery. That's all you say.
I forgot exactly the word where he says like, why do you hold on to your life so much? Like you're selfish. You become so engulfed in yourself that people think that your life is just for self-preservation. I can't even. It was some way Salagi. He just is like, it's like, come on, bro. Like you work it. No, that doesn't. You know, I don't know. I find it a break. You have something to say, sis? Go.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you.
No, please.
But you're on the topic. There was a study done by some organization on mice, and they would expose them to cherry blossoms. And when they smelled the cherry blossoms, they would shock them. When the mice had kids, their kids exhibited fear of cherry blossoms without actually being shocked.
Right.
So this is called the Willie Lynch method. This is why they would dig a hole in the ground and put a pregnant woman face down with her stomach in the hole and beat her so that her children will always fear the white man. This is a very effective method of desensitizing and breeding fear into an unborn. And this is why none of our people will actually slap the shit out of somebody who's hurting one of our people. Because there's inherent fear in the Akashic records, in the DNA of us, to fear this beast.
Right. And so,
let me add to what she's saying. What's heavy about what she's saying is that the Bible even has an answer for that. And it blows your mind to think that what happened in slavery wasn't the first time it happened. There was a time in our history where the Greeks there was one leader of the Greeks that had a woman who had 7 children. And he put all 7 of her children on a torture rack. And while they was on that torture rack, instead of being fearful and giving in because of what they were suffering, she put on a man's stomach and built something into them that made them fearless even in the face of death. And even though those mice, they were scared of that cherry blossom because they was being shot, we are better than mice. If a black woman, Hispanic or Native American Indian woman will put the right spirit inside of her child, when the father not around, or even when he's around, if that family unit is just cultivated properly, even in the face of death, even in all of this trauma that we're suffering in America, that child will do and say something that will even blow his oppressor's mind. It's 2 Maccabees, I believe it's chapter 7. It's give me one.
It's up.
I'm gonna pull the scripture real quick. But what you're saying is heavy because it's not unrealistic.
While you find it, can I comment on what the sister said too? What the sister was bringing out was so heavy as well. It makes me think. Also reading about, they said that the society has like a collective subconscious where people that are a part of a group, there are certain thoughts that are in the back of their mind. So if that's in our DNA from going through the oppression, then you can understand why we teach that the white man is the devil the Bible speaks of.
That's right.
Because they have a collective conscious, subconscious of their DNA of putting that woman in the hole with her belly in the hole.
Right.
And their DNA, they remember, they always say, well, I wasn't there. I didn't have anybody in slavery. No, it's in your DNA. Right. The person that did those crimes has been passed down to you as well. And that spirit is in you as well. And so you may not have it in your conscious mind, but in your subconscious mind, you have a superiority complex. You're going around a society where you see statues and you see what is that? The big, what is that? Where they have the faces of the presidents in the mountains. What's it? Mount Rushmore. You know what I mean? That all those things are like a superiority complex. So when you're coming and dealing with these situations today, you're thinking that you're exempt from that, but it's still showing in so many ways where when we talk about what's going on in our communities, it's just like well, he shouldn't have done that, or she shouldn't have done that, or if you guys just do this. It's always reflecting back on us, and they never see anything that they played a part in. So we know that it's not going to change in them. We don't fight to change our people in Isupk. We fight to change our people. Kind of the same thing you were saying. We have to fix ourselves. We're not going to worry about making them love us. That's not going to fix our problem.
If I may, it's a gang of verses. I want the brother, if I may, the brother can just read them out. This is a mother who had 7 sons who were being persecuted just for one thing, for not eating pork. The king of Greece, he wanted her children to eat pork because pork is the other white meat to white people. But for blacks, Latins, and Native Americans, it's unlawful. So it's just like somebody that wants you to do something that your parents say you're not to do. Oh, you can't smoke a cigarette? Come on, man, smoke a cigarette. You be like, nah, I can't do that. And they just beat you up because you don't smoke a cigarette. But you, in your resolve, say, I don't care if y'all punch me until I can't breathe anymore. I'm not smoking this damn cigarette. And these children were raised in such a fashion that they took death over breaking the law of the Most High. So it's about 10 verses. I'm gonna let the brother just read through them so you get the story of what happened. It's a lot. This is all I gotta say. Go ahead. Call it up.
The book of 2 Maccabees, chapter 7, verse 27. But she, bowing herself toward him, laughing, the cruel tyrant to scorn, spake.
That's a lot. Start at verse 26.
Book of 2 Maccabees, chapter 7, verse 26. And when he had exhorted her with many words, she promised him that she would counsel her son. But she, bowing herself toward him, laughing the cruel tyrant to scorn, spake in her country language on this matter.
Talk about the Hebrew language. Go ahead.
And my son, having pity upon me, that bare thee 9 months in my womb, and gave thee suck 3 years, and nourished thee, and brought thee up into this age, and endured the trouble of education. I beseech thee, my son, look upon the heaven and the earth, and all that is therein, and consider that God made them of things that were not. And so was mankind made likewise. Verse 29. Fear not this tormentor, but being worthy of thy brethren, take thy death, that I may receive thee again in mercy with thy brethren.
Right.
Verse 30. While she was yet speaking these words, the young man said, Whom wait ye for? I will not obey the king's commandment, but I will obey the commandment of the law that was given unto our fathers by Moses.
That's right.
Verse 31. And thou, that hast been the author of all mischief against the Hebrews, shall not escape the hands of God.
That's right.
Verse 32. For we suffer because our sins. Verse 33. And though the living Lord be angry with us a little while for our chastening and correction, yet shall ye be at one again with his servants. Verse 34. But thou, O godless man, and of all other most wicked, be not lifted up without a cause, nor puffed up with uncertain hopes, lifting up thy hand against the servants of God. Verse 35. For thou hast not yet escaped the judgment of the Almighty God, who seeth all things. For our brethren, who now have suffered a short pain, are dead under God's covenant of everlasting life. But thou, through the judgment of God, shalt receive just punishment for thy pride. But I, as my brethren, offer up my body and life for the law of our fathers, beseeching God that he would speedily be merciful unto our nation, and that thou torments and plagues mayest confess that he alone is God. Verse 38, and that in me and my brethren the wrath of the Almighty, which is justly wrath of the Almighty, which is justly brought upon our nation, may cease. Verse 39, then the king, being in a rage, handled him worse than all the rest, and took it grievously that he was mocked. Verse 40, so this man died undefiled, and put his whole trust in the Lord. Verse 41, last of all, after the sons of the mother, verse 41, last of all, after the sons of the mother died,
No, after the sons, the mother.
last of all, after the sons, the mother died.
Right.
Verse 42, let this be enough now to have spoken concerning the idolatrous feasts and the extreme tortures.
You understand? Like, in our history, like, we have suffered something horrible. You know what I'm saying? But even though we suffer, if we teach our sons and our daughters and ourselves how to be even in the worst of times, it's not about what's happening right then, because a record is made of what happened to them. I can only imagine how horrible it was in their time. And it's just as horrible in our time to see what's happening. But if we serve the actual God, the nigger God, as Commander Johnny Hunter would say,
That's right.
if we serve him, there is a blessing for us, and there is torments for the people that are oppressing us, even in 2020.
That's right.
Right.
So, like, if I just go back a little bit further in this chapter to explain what happened to the brother,
Who's first?
verse 4, chapter 7, verse 4, what they were doing, which forthwith being heated, he commanded to cut out the tongue of him that spake first, and to cut off the utmost parts of his body, and the rest of his brethren and his mother looking on. Now when he was thus maimed, verse 5, now when he was thus maimed and all his members, he commanded him, being yet alive, to be brought to the fire and to be fried in the pan. All right, they were literally torturing this brother. Like he said, it was 7 of them. He went from the oldest to the youngest. And then you heard the story of the youngest. They did him worse than all the other ones. And then they killed the mother. But they stood on what they believed in up until the end. And so what this is saying is like overcoming that fear and being willing to stand for something. We've heard this as the saying, it's a cliche. If you don't stand for anything, you'll fall for everything. And that's what happens in our culture, our society. We don't have anything to stand on. No one believes in anything. And so we were just all over the place.
So how do how does that change? But I guess it changes like the mission that you all are, speaking out to the people, the community.
If I may, it changes with people like yourself. Like people like yourself change because without you, we don't have nothing is built on its own. Everything, you know what I'm saying? Everything is built on someone seeing what you're doing and saying, I like that. And that's what happened with Christ. Even when the reason Christ was in that specific tomb, because there was a certain Pharisee that watched him while he was doing his thing and said, I like what this brother is doing. I like how he's bringing what he's saying. Damn, he's not like everybody else. And when he finally died, he was like, I'll take his body. And he put him in his specific sepulcher. You know what I'm saying? And that's how it's sisters like you, it's brothers that are with the same mindset as you, thinking the same way and saying, I'm sick and tired of how things are, and I'm glad there's a voice that's thinking like me. Because when the Panthers died, Oakland died, in a sense. In the ISUPK, we are greater than the Black Panthers.
Right.
And we can say that absolutely firmly because we were there in the 60s when the Muslims were doing their thing. We were there in the 70s when the Panthers were doing their thing. Just because you didn't know we were there, it don't change the fact that we've been doing this. And because Commander Johnny Hunter
didn't put down his sword, I'm here. This brother said, all the other brothers in the Oakland camp, and we were able to meet you. Like, this is the one thing that started that's not going to end. Because I'm not giving up this in front of these brothers.
Right. And so, Lagi, if I may, so there's another thing too. For one, this isn't, they called it the microwave generation. I don't know if you ever heard that statement before, where like before, you've heard that before, right? Like before the microwave was invented, people had more patience. The generation that grew up with the microwaves their whole life, they want things like this on demand. And so now, even if you remember when the internet first came out, I know you hear the dial up, it was like, and you sit there for a minute, you waiting for it to load up. Now, if your computer takes a few seconds, you're like, man, what's going on? You know, because you're so used to it. Press the button and it comes. And so next week, there may not be 500 brothers sitting in this room, but don't think that we're not moving and we're growing. And it's not always about the numbers. We want quality. We don't want the quantity. The quantity will come, Lord allow. But the quality of brothers is what separates ISUPK, because everyone else is focused on, like we said, that's what this whole topic tonight about, being one body and not compromising. See, other people are willing to compromise to get more people. But in the end, more is not always greater, you know. So brothers will go out and teach a man should only have one wife. What will that bring? A whole lot of women will come and support us and give us money. We'll have a big building and they'll be giving us money every week. But what is that going to do in the long run? We're just catering to them and changing what we're teaching in order to gain. We're not compromising to gain. So we're showing that we're willing to suffer. And once we get that righteous number, then we will see, you know, that big change. And so,
I was saying, how I love to see this room full.
we would love it too.
Every week.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Not so much, I mean, the numbers are important because that's more people that you're bringing out of the gutter of the community into the light. You know,
I understand it. I agree. I want the same thing, but it may not work that way, but it doesn't mean we're still not getting closer, because it's like it's slowly things. Like I said, you know, when you're in the time of it, it's like this is all we've got. But if you look at things, and what does the Bible say? A day is 1,000 years to the Lord. So 1,000 years to us is forever. But when you zoom out and you put it in a different time stance, and that's only like a second. You know, they have all these different clocks. They say, well, the Earth's been around for a million years. Who knows what they teach? But it's like we're in the last 5 seconds that humans been around for 50,000 years, whatever. They just make up these numbers. But the point is that depending on your angle of things, you might see it like, I don't know, man. Just you know what I'm saying. Even me just coming into the school, it's like if you see the ISUPK as a whole, we've seen it grow so much. You know what I mean?
When this camp started, it was just me and a brother in Sacramento. And now I can look and be like, wow, these are strong men. And I've seen many people come that didn't make it. So for me, it's not, I'm like, yeah, it's hard to get in itself. So yeah, this is great. You know what I'm saying? And so I myself understand it from a perspective different than Kasar Kai, different than Kakun. I'm getting your name right.
He is right.
Different than you'll get it. And speaking of that, you know what I'm saying?
you've been here for a while, so we definitely want to name you as well. You know what I'm saying? Because you are UPK. So,
Did you hear that? I've been crowned the queen. I do have one question.
Go
Can
ahead.
you just tell me, just in our current state of how our people are living in tents and, just constantly under this oppression that has gotten extremely terrible for every one of us, whatever tax bracket you're in, if you're melanated, you're in trouble. What are your thoughts as to the solution for a swift end to that?
solution for a swift end to that.
How do we end it?
Swift end to
okay.
it. The swiftest end to our oppression is to segregate. It's the swiftest end to our oppression because it forces us to rely only on us. So if you need soap and I make soap, you need me to make soap. And I can't sit here and battle on the soap. I gotta get you the soap, and I gotta get the material. It's us becoming the way we were before we got integrated by Martin Luther King. It's really not a long process. It's very swift if we would just go with it. Like, I'm not buying, like Dove had a whole campaign where it was a black woman didn't get a certain amount of praise, and the black woman was pissed off about it. But then a couple of weeks later, a black woman went and bought more Dove soap.
Like, was they had a black face?
Yeah, it was something like a black face, like she washed it, I don't remember. But we get mad, but we don't stay mad. If we would just stay mad, think about Chinatown. Chinatown exists because Asian people said, I ain't voting, but I'm only caring about my people. If blacks, Latins, and Native Americans only care about our people, we don't even need white people. We don't.
I know this.
You cannot, like, Thanksgiving is coming, right? Christmas is after that. These are two major holidays. And then New Year's. If black people thought about how much money they spent on Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's celebration, you easily have $1 billion. Just in Oakland alone, you have $500 million. What store could not be built off of that? And every year, we could build something just by not celebrating holidays.
Right.
That's what I'm talking about. Instead of us going to city council meetings and talking about our schools and how bad they are.
Right.
Build our own schools.
We build our own schools. It's like, I had hair salons before I opened the gallery, and a lot of my clients were educators, black women. But did they teach? Did they stay in the community? No. They went to the hill.
Right.
And I would ask them, why would you go to these white schools? It's like leaving your house, leaving your wife
Right.
at home
Right.
to go and take care of somebody else's house.
And a White House at that.
You know what I'm saying? And I just don't understand.
What?
Because I don't have a PhD. I don't have a degree.
Okay.
None of that. But it's just, as my father would say, basic common sense. It's just real basic.
Think about OJ. If OJ Simpson would have built a mansion in West Oakland and hired black people to do security, he wouldn't have to worry about black people robbing.
If all of these, a lot of these black people that moved out of the community into the hills in Walnut Creek and all of that, to be closer to white people, it's like we don't feel like we've arrived until we can walk out in our backyard and wave at Susie. I mean, it's just crazy.
I mean, this is why we try to attack Martin Luther King's image so much in the mind of our people, because
But a
if
lot
you
of our
study,
people didn't even like Martin Luther King.
that's
And they
true,
didn't
but
like Malcolm X.
it's not about, like I said, there's a conscious and there's a subconscious. It's collective subconscious in the back of your mind. Everyone thinks that we have to come together. If you separate, that's bad. They'll tell you the schools are segregated, so you're automatically thinking you have to integrate.
Oh, I see.
You have to go the opposite of what's going on, not realizing that it wasn't the segregation that was the problem. It was us not fully segregated. And then us wanting things from them that we could have had from ourselves. So when the leader leads you in that direction, you, instead of making your own cup of coffee, you want to fight to have these people make you a cup of coffee. Doesn't make any sense.
I get it.
But if you follow leaders, see, people are natural followers. We look to leaders, so that's why we always want to go against the leadership, you know. But one thing I'll say is that war, people, when you think about war, if you study war strategy, it's not all guns and bombs and all of that. The biggest sections and chapters in the book about war strategy are talking about getting the minds of the people of the enemy. And so the minds of our people have been so wrapped up into what we're taught. I mean, we're taught by their school systems. We're taught by television and movies and music, everything that they control. So that's how we think. We think like they want us to think. And so I was going to ask you, what's one group of people that is known for having a lot of power? Besides, we know white people as a group, but what's
Like
another?
white people?
Yeah, another group of white people, I would say.
Chinese. Or
Chinese,
Asian.
well, another group of white people, I'll say. The people, exactly. The who?
The fake news.
Exactly. The fake Jews, right? The fake Jewish people.
Yeah.
Feinstein and Seinfeld and all those people that you hear these names, that they run the movie industry. They run the music industry. They run the Diamond District and every other industry. They have their hands in controlling these industries. But what are they using to derive their power from? This book right here.
That's right.
This book is giving them their power because it tells them they cannot trust the goyim, as they say. That means the other nations. They say everything we teach, they teach their people. They say all the other nations are going to be their slaves one day. If you want to show you, I can show you an interview with they're in Israel, asking them, they say, yeah, this is what we believe. You know, one day every nation is going to be our slaves. So either they're right or we're right, but the Bible is saying what we're saying. You see what I mean? So they separate themselves from everyone else and they help each other out. And so the reason why we'll never do that as a community, as a nation, is because we don't have a rule book to say that you can't leave if you're a teacher and go over there and help them. Our rule book says you have to stay here and help us. Those people are your enemies. And we so, believing that everyone is the same, that,
So,
go ahead, please, sir.
do you want to know what Benjamin Netanyahu means? Benjamin Netanyahu, he's the prime minister of Israel. His name is literally Benjamin.
Benjamin.
Netanyahu is Benjamin and Yish. So his name is Benjamin. That ain't no black person naming themselves two first names. Or two names. Benjamin is the tribe of the West Indians, the Jamaicans, the Caribbean Islanders, people from Grenada, all of those type of people. This devil named himself Benjamin. But because it looks like Benjamin Netanyahu, it looks special in Israel. It's like Johnson and Johnson. There ain't nothing special about, they stole our culture and they're thriving off of it. And it is damn near nigh to impossible to get our people to understand that we would just take our culture and live it instead of fighting against it every day and every night. we will rule the earth. The 144,000 is simply 12,000 men out of each of the 12 tribes. If you look up what 144,000 people is, it's literally a small city. A small city of blacks, Latin, and Native Americans would turn the world right side up, and we would be in power instead of it being the way it is now. And white people call themselves Benjamin.
And I know for time's sake we're coming to like 9 o'clock, but even maybe after the class, I can just show you this is on YouTube. I don't know if the brothers can see it online too, but there in Israel, he's asking these Jewish guys, he says, do you think that the Gentiles will one day be the slaves to the Jews? And he goes in and he asks this guy, and he doesn't even want to be seen on camera. Let me see. I don't know, it's kind of low, maybe not. Maybe I'm turning it off.
My phone is loud.
Is the volume over here? He said he asked him, and you see the answer. So he's.
We'll say things like when the Messiah comes.
When the Messiah comes.
That non-Jews will end up being slaves to Jews and things like that. Is that part of where does that come from?
That what you're saying is correct. What you're saying is correct.
And what does it mean?
But that's only when all the Jewish people around the world and here are acting like proper Jews.
Okay.
And none of the Jews around here are acting like proper Jews. So that's not
Oh, and also, what does it mean that they'll be slaves? What does that mean? First of all, where does it come from? Where does that idea come from?
It says if all the Jews around the world, which is 6 million or 8 million Jews around the world, are acting like good Jews, they're praying 3 times a day, the women cover their hair, they don't do any sins, they don't do any sins, then it's a different, then we're acting like a chosen people. So then God says, you're acting like chosen people. So the other people, the rest of the people will serve you. But if the Jewish people are acting like nowhere near the chosen people at all, most of the Jewish people are intermarrying, Sabbath, not eating non-kosher, not keeping the holidays, not keeping intermarrying.
I know he said it twice. The women don't just populate.
And don't keep Shabbat. That is all. There's nowhere near. They're nowhere near anywhere acting like the chosen people. So there's nothing to talk about that. That is only when all the people act like proper people. Then there's something to talk about. But then we're nowhere near that stage. And so there's nowhere.
Where does that source come from? Just one.
This is one of the prayers we say on the after Sabbath. I'm sure.
So he's saying.
Tell me what you're saying.
Oh, couldn't hear. Oh, he was basically saying that he's asking him, do you believe that when the Messiah comes, all the other nations will be the slaves of the Jewish people? And he said, yes, that's true. This is one of the prayers we say. And he said, but they're not acting like the chosen people, so they're intermarrying, which we say we're not supposed to deal with the other nations. They're not keeping the high holy days, and the women are not dressing properly. All those things they believe and teach in one day, that if they follow the law, statutes, and commandments, what we say, according to their breakdown of it, then every nation will be slaves to them.
But you gotta look at it, you gotta look at it from this angle. They're literally looking at their people like, see, they're the reason why we ain't truly supposed to be. And that's the heaviest part of it. This white person is like, he'll see a white woman acting a certain way, he's like, that's all we gotta do on earth now.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? She'll see a brother being homosexual, like, that's it. You know what I'm saying? We're never gonna get it because
A white woman marrying a brother.
Exactly. Yeah, that's intermarrying. Exactly. They're the same.
And he's not wrong to think that. The problem is he's imitating how we're supposed to.
Exactly.
America made us say, look, I don't care. You know, all that affected me.
Right.
I don't care what happened. It's affected me.
Right.
It's just that because Christianity is the prevalent religion on earth, they don't teach you anything. They teach you the law is done away with. It's such a deep situation that you can't believe it's so obvious. It's literally
White people telling white preachers telling this.
Right.
Black preachers telling black people this, and black people being messed up behind it.
Right.
And then a group of black people that don't follow none of that say, hey, do this, but because this person told that person to do that, that person told you to do that, these people come and say, no, you're supposed to do this. It's like, oh man, I don't believe you.
Right.
That's
It's really like I said, it's really that simple, but like that's literally what they're teaching their people. And it's like you said, it's kind of crazy that they're in this position, having millionaires, their own nation, and they're running this and running that, and they're still like, we're not where we need to be. You know, we could be having this on way more lockdown than what it is. And we're over here like, man, when we come along and tell our people that we need to separate, stop intermarrying, you know, the women need to dress properly, the brothers need to stop doing drugs, and then we're told like we're the problem. But they're literally are one of the most powerful groups on earth based on what we're saying is our true culture. And so like the sister said, like, how can we solve the homelessness? How many Jewish people do you see homeless?
I don't believe I've seen it.
Exactly. Because they follow this book. And so that's what we're saying. The solutions are in the book, but people don't want to accept the solutions when you hear it because of who's telling it to you. And that's where it becomes. And so that's even another psychological thing. Even within myself, like I said, there was, you know, we teach this every day. White man's the devil. We throw down the Jesus Christ image and we step on it, the white Jesus. But then when I heard a white woman break it down, I'm like, God damn, that is deep. Like she explained it. I'm like, wow, you know what I mean? But I didn't really understand like what we're saying. And the way she broke it down, she was just like, to render Jesus Christ white is like the most detrimental thing. We can argue that this Confederate man statue should be taken down. He's a blatant racist. We can argue, oh yeah, we know a Nazi Hitler should be taken down. But Jesus Christ being white is more dangerous than all of those things. And so we don't even get to scratch the surface. So that just showed me how deep and what we teach in the UPK is so important. It's like they know it, but we don't know it. They know what they're doing, but we don't understand. And when we come and tell you, it's almost like it goes over our head. I don't even get it that deep until she explained, like, this is why I know it. My feeling says step on the picture. My heart says, yeah, that's the devil. But it's like they, you know what I mean? She had to reconfirm it. It's like, wow, you're right. This is destroying children. This is, you know what I mean? Like, this image is.
Where is that gigantic statue of Caesar?
In Brazil.
It's real,
It's
right?
in Brazil.
All right, so I know you've seen it. There's a gigantic statue of Caesar Borgia known as Jesus Christ. He got his hands up. He's wearing a Roman guard and all that kind of stuff.
In Brazil.
Right, I can look it up right now.
Picture, just as horrible as idolatry is, picture if that was a giant Negro, a giant black man with braids or a fro, whichever one they chose. He got his hands open, he wearing his warlike garb with his girdle around. He got the scrolls with him, and he got that nigga nose, you know what I'm saying? He got the big old beard. Picture if that is what you saw all your life. The effect that it will have on you is catastrophic. Your children will come out of the womb like, why is everyone so nice to you? Because everybody sees a black man. Yeah,
it's in Brazil, yeah.
It's in Brazil.
That statue.
Right, if that wasn't a white man, that's Cesar Borgia, who Michelangelo.
Say his name.
Cesar Borgia. He's the son of six pope. But if that was just a black man, and you know that's Jesus Christ, like it would affect the world.
It was a real person, a real white man. He was a part of this famous family, and I guess he was dating Michelangelo or whoever, and he painted him, Leonardo da Vinci. He painted him as Jesus Christ, and so that's why you see the two images next there at the bottom. Yeah, that's where they get that image from, is from a real person. And he's just,
So all I'm trying to say is that it's one thing, you can't indoctrinate people if everything else doesn't match. The church can say Christ is white, and the world can say Christ is white. But if every image you see is black, it's like, nah, he's black. And this verse says he's black. When you paint the image of him white and everybody believes he's white, you can show them the verse that says he's black. And people, they're not going to believe. It's the Jedi mind trick that has been put on us. And that is the real fight. That's the fight.
So,
I'm good.
okay. All right.
my dilemma or confusion is that I guess my thinking, or I thought, the more educated you are and the more degrees you have, and the more exposure you have, that your thinking should be different. I don't have those degrees. And I've had some exposure, but my thinking is totally, I'm like saying, now I know they have read more than I have. And I know they have experience, the experiences are different, but they have had some experiences.
Yes, brother.
And we all, as Black people living in this country, if we haven't experienced it, our mothers, our fathers, our aunties, somebody in the family, have experienced something. So how is it I can see or understand, or I can sit here and listen to you and take in this information and get excited about it, and it kind of sorts out, or it confirms my thinking, and it helps me grow. So if I can do that and say, I guess I would be considered a uneducated or unlearned Negro, as opposed to a PhD or a master's or whatever. How do I know this? Or how I just don't understand it.
Yes.
It just seems like there is no excuse.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's. I mean, you gotta serve. You're definitely right on that. For one, the people that do know is one or the other. Like they know. What I keep saying, the movie, they know and don't show, or they don't care. Like they do know, and a lot of them just don't care, or they are brainwashed and just don't really understand. And so that's why they can say that you can be a smart fool. That people, I've been to school and seen this, over and over and over again, where actually the education is used to destroy you from understanding this. And so even learning like different things about like revolutionaries, and they're saying people that don't know a lot of information are better to work with because it's like a blank slate. Someone that has all this knowledge and information, you can't tell them anything because they think they know more than you. But certain things are simple, and you're making it, so I'll just bring this precept, Ecclesiastes chapter 12 and verse 12. And further by these, my son, be admonished of making many books, there is no end, and much study is weariness of the flesh. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. It's like you can make all these books and you can study, it can be weariness of your flesh, but if you don't understand to fear the Most High and to keep his commandments, then you don't know anything. I can take somebody that doesn't know how to read and write. I'd rather be with this person that wants to be righteous than someone that has wrote 1,000 books and can break down biology. It's like you can't,
It's like when I first opened this gallery 18 years ago.
Right.
A lot of the artists that are professors and this and that would say, well, Joyce, did you go to the white galleries to see how they do it? And I said, well, why do I need to do that? I have a mind of my own.
Right.
I have my own vision of what I want. So why do I need to go to white people to tell me anything?
That's right.
And so it's like, why do we think like that? Why do we think that we need their approval? Because I hear people say, well, white people do it. So why do you allow a white person to set the standard for you?
Can I play this clip right here? This is a movie where they're breaking down like slavery. It's like it makes Roots look like a Disney movie. This is some Italian people that made this movie, and it's called Goodbye Uncle Tom. It was made in 1971. And they were showing things that they won't really show you here in America because they don't really have allegiance to America, so they could expose more things that happened during slavery. But this is like one of the scenes. He said it always comes back to this right here.
Thomas Alva. In history, we know that every great civilization was founded on slavery. Let us take the classic examples of Greece and Rome for whence you turn. It's God's and nature's law that man attempt to prevail over his fellow man. If one becomes the master, one becomes the slave. Let us remember that God is wise, and as long as God is wise, we will prevail over all other races. Sorry, Professor, what was that you said? God is wise, and as long as God is wise, we shall prevail over all other races. Beg your pardon, Professor, but with all this confusion, would you mind repeating? God is wise, and as long as God is wise, we shall prevail over all other races. Thank you very much. Any other viewpoint?
So if you want to add this too, it's so they say that the person is wise, but people are ignorant. So you can get it because you're biased, you're sold in your thought process. But to go out and talk to 20, 30, 50 different people, they can't get the indoctrination out of their mind to even open their mind and be like, maybe I have been taught wrong. But the reason why you can sit next to a PhD and he be like, now they're lying to you, they're lying. What they're saying is wrong because theological colleges teach preachers how to preach, what information to give out. We have preachers in the Isupk, brothers that used to be preachers, and they'll tell you, like, yeah, I was literally trained to lie to people. And what the brothers bring out earlier, you have pimps that come into this once they get too old to pimp women anymore. They come in here, because a lot of people that get paid, that's all I've been doing my whole life.
Right.
And the white colleges and universities and fraternities and whatever the hell else they call them, they teach you how to destroy us. And you'll go to that Ivy League college thinking, yeah, I'm Alpha Zeta Pi, but Alpha Zeta Pi has made you white. You don't care about black people anymore. You may have a degree in the knowledge, but you've been taught, where did you go to school at? Berkeley? Don't tell her this, because she didn't go to the right school. Now, as you go to Princeton, okay, well, we'll have a little conversation. Whereas in the Isupk, we're talking what the scriptures say. Freely receive, freely give. If you black, Native American Indian, we're going to give it to you flat, plain, and unadulterated truth.
Right.
And that is free. Whereas they went to school and paid money to lie.
I went to art school CCA and I quit because art to me is creative and it comes from your mind, it comes from in here and all of that. So I don't need to know about these so-called white masses. This is not what I'm interested in. This is not what I want to do. So, and they try to change your way of thinking or doing things, or the way you see art, or the way you see creativity. They try to change that or mold it, and it's all based on these white, as they call them, masters.
Right.
It's like I have
And that's it's an interesting word. Just think slave master. Right.
From Senegal, who is another one of my brothers. And whenever people see his work, they say he paints like Picasso. I said, well, we don't paint like Picasso. He is African. I mean, he is forbidden. Picasso
Stole that. Yeah.
You know, and we just don't get it.
Right.
Sometimes it can be, for me, it can be really frustrating, you know, to see all of these sisters and I guess brothers. And not that I know everything. I know what I know, and I know there's a lot I don't know. But I have an open mind, and I'm not a fool.
Right.
So it's just hard. It's just sometimes it just get, you know, sometimes I just say, you know what, I just don't want to be black. I mean, honestly, because it's hard. But it's hard because there's the masses. There's just so many people. Their thinking is so bad. You know, or they don't want to think.
I understand where you're coming from, but that's why you definitely got to, as much as you can, I would advise, you know, to get around this UPK, man. It's like, it may seem like we're on keep saying the same thing over and over, but you will lose faith in our people if you never see something different. So
why
if you can
think that I want you all. I mean, I appreciate you being here.
Right.
Because people say, oh, Joyce, they're crazy.
Right.
I said, they're not crazy. I said, everybody's studying the same Bible.
Right.
This is my thing. And everybody has a different interpretation. And, you know, so, no, it's interesting, and I'm learning something.
Right.
I'll tell you this, in the heart of it, I'll take it apart. And what I'm about to say is very simple, and there's nothing wrong with it. The heart of hearts is you really want black supremacy. And there is nothing wrong with wanting black things to matter.
That's right.
That's what you want. You want that, and that's what we want.
That is so important to me.
Absolutely.
So
That is really important to me. And I have just
so here,
big
we don't even have this sister.
faith.
Man.
You know, people ask me all the time, Joyce, how do you do it? And I said, faith.
That's right.
I have faith. I don't have no money. A lot of people think I'm rich, but that's okay. You know, I am rich.
I know.
You know.
Yeah.
So, and I don't move on fear. You know, and I think I may have shared that I lost 4 brothers that were killed. That doesn't put fear in me to make me afraid to be around my brothers.
That's right.
It opens me up to receive my brother.
Damn right.
Because I see that, I think there's what is that saying? There's a season, a reason, and I think that people come into your life or show up at different times for different reasons. And I'm in the mind of believing that it's a positive, there's a lesson, there's something to be learned. And so I'd make a good speaker, wouldn't I? And I'm really ashamed. But
the one,
matter of fact,
if
I
I
had
may.
a person, he was supposed to come tonight, but because of the rain, because his brother, because he said, Joyce, they're still studying on Tuesday. And I said, yeah. And he said, I'm gonna come because his brother studies. He's in, I think he's in Southern California or something. And so he wanted to come. And another guy, he told me, but eventually they're gonna, they're gonna show up because,
To go back, and before we let you go, but something you were saying, like, why do we look to them to get the validation and all those type of things? Like, I don't know if you could hear on the video what he was saying is that as long as God is white, we will rule. They understand that having God and Jesus be white is the most powerful thing you can do. So like he said, when we change God to black and we change Christ to black, we're not even changing him, we just revealing the truth of what it is in our minds. That's what is the first step to getting free. They're showing you that in order for them to make this thing work, God has to be white. It seems so simple, it may go over your head, but we're trying to teach here is very, very powerful. It's very important that you have to change this and understand, like you said, the nigga God. Like, if you keep that image and keep that mindset, or everyone else that is doing that around you, that's what they're doing. See, it comes in different forms. They may not even be Christian. They may not even believe in the Bible, but they still follow white Jesus. It doesn't matter if you're Buddhist, if you're Islam, if you're anything, it all comes back to Christianity, and that mind state is that everyone should be together, everyone is the same, we should all hold hands, and they're using that to take over us because they don't keep their bank accounts the same. They don't treat everyone the same when you go to Wells Fargo, but your religion and your faith is supposed to be this equal world. But everything else in our reality is there are these people on top and then us on bottom. But in our book is saying that there is supposed to be a people on top and it's supposed to be you. And this is how you get there. But we're so brainwashed that, oh yeah, go check out what the white gallery is doing because their God is white. Once you see that their God is white, and that's what he's saying in that tape, as long as God is white, that they will rule, is that their God is white. they're who they believe is the most powerful person in the universe is a white man. It's just, yeah. But yeah, I know for time's sake, we're over time right now. I guess we'll close out the class. But how we do, sir? Just all right. Pass the class over to Precinct Officer Kamamad.
Individual Michael.
Do the prayer. Our Father, I can do that. I got it in my. I had it written down. Okay. I got it right here.
ISUPK security announcements. We are the ISUPK under Commanding General Johannes, Star Guard 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York. Rule for new brother or sister. When a new brother or sister comes into the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are to be saluted only. They are here to share themselves with the world. If they need transportation, the teacher will arrange it. After 6 months, if a brother or sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or sister. There's another 6 months in which the brother and sister will court each other. After this 6-month period, the brother and sister will get permission from the head to marry. Tithes, which is a commandment, can be found in Numbers chapter 18, verse 21. Also in Malachi chapter 3, verses 8 through 10. It means a tenth in Hebrew, a ma'asharah. 10% of the increase, 10% of any increase the Most High gives you, gives to the Treasury Department. Priest fund, it's a free will offering for priests. It's not mandatory whatever sort of amount you would like. The upcoming Holy Convocation will be a Hanukkah, starting 8 days, starting on the 9th of December, 17th to 17th. And we're going to close it here in the gallery here. All other announcements will be found on our website, www.isupk.com. If any brother wants to become a trooper in the school, start wearing all black, boots, shirts, pants, headband, or scarf.
So, Amaja means to stand. Upanya Hakodam means face the east. Sar means turn. It's the east.
This way. All right.
So when we pray, we speak, we do this with our hands. So as you say the words, move your hands based on how you talk. Just like that.
All right. We're going to say the Lord's Prayer in Hebrew and then in the English. All right. Abanawa. Shabbat Shemayim. Kodash. Haya. Shankar. Yahweh. Malakwatha. Taba'ah. Ratazaka. Haya. Aisha. Baharataza. Kawa. Haya. Bashamayim. Nathan Lanawa. Lakam. Ka. Yawon. Wasalak Nawa. Kabawaf Nawa. Kasalak Nawa. Kabawaf Yanawa. Wala'ah. Kabayaya Nawa. Banasaya 1. Abo. Hawashaya Nawa. Mayan. Rai. Kaya. Laka. Amalakwa. Waha'ala. Watapara. La'ai Walamyum. Aman.
We'll just say it in English. Our Father.
Our Father.
Which art in heaven.
Hallowed be thy name.
Hallowed be thy name.
Yahweh.
Thy kingdom come.
Thy will be done.
In earth.
As it is in heaven.
Give us this day.
Our daily bread.
Forgive us our debts.
As we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation. But deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. So be it.
Sorry, let's turn. One courtesy salute to the teacher.
Individual Amajim Shabbat.
Oh, sorry. You could be seated. Upanya Hakodam.
I'm Shabi.
Yeah, you're Shabi. Seated. All right, individual one person to the teacher.
Amajim Shabbat. Amajim. Barak.
How about Shem Yahshua Barakah?
How about Shem Yahshua Barakah?
Courtesy salute to the sisters.
Now you can stand up. All right, so the way the sisters pray, we have a certain stance. So you put your feet at 45-degree angles. So you're looking like this. Put your head down just to show humility. Put your right hand on top, your left hand on bottom, right hand on top. When we say the rock, you put your right hand on your heart, and then you repeat what we say. We'll walk you through it, okay? All right.
When the visit is for Christians to the ladies in class, women in class. Amajim Shabbat. Amajim Barak.
Yahweh Shamar Hashem Yahushua. So you'll say Yahweh.
Yahweh.
Shamar. Al. Atha. Bahashem. Yahushua. Most High Christ. And what you just said was the Most High watch over you in the name of Christ.
Oh, I got right.
This is
I have a question. So why do you wear all black and boots?
So as far as the appearance